The 80s saw Hasbro take toys from a few of Takara's toy lines that use metal parts to make their own toy line. The metal parts are often referred to as die-cast since they use metal molds called dies to pour and cast certain sections of the toys from molten metal. On Prime, his chest, truck cab front, and toes. On Starscream and the other jets, the torso section. In the 2000s, that practice was all but forgotten in favor of the cheaper and easier to manufacture plastic injection parts. In 2015, Hasbro decided to bring it back, however, and released a new line of Transformers figures, focusing on die-cast parts. Join me as I take a look into Transformers Titanium series, the 16th. Hello, Collector's Corner here. Trying to capture the nostalgic feeling of cold metal parts in transforming toys, Hasbro made their new line of toys based around the extensive use of diecast. For this, they needed a team that knew how to work with diecast, so they tasked Galoob with the creation of the toys. Who or what is Galoob, you may ask? Well, that's Hasbro's sub-brand in charge of their line of toy cars that were meant to compete with Mattel's Hot Wheels by being even smaller. Galoob was responsible for micro machines, tiny, teeny little diecast cars that came with playsets you could connect together to make vast cities. Hasbro somehow thought making toy cars with no movable parts in making transforming robots out of diecast was the same thing. And as we'll see, unfortunately, it was not. Galoob had very little knowledge and experience with complex engineering and jointing required for Transformers to, well, transform, and also lacked a bit of knowledge in regard to action figure design. What we got out of them is a line of toys most regard as terrible and hardly fun, and in the best cases, it's barely okay. Galoob's first release in this line is arguably the worst, G.I. Joe Megatron. Megatron is based on a design by comic book artist Don Figueroa, used in the G.I. Joe Transformers comic book published by Dreamwave. The problem is that Megatron turned into a gun, not a tank. It was part of a story based on a fictional WW2 setting. Having to forgo the gun mode since it was impossible to release one even as small as the titanium version would have been, Galoob made him a tank that just looked like a rectangular crate with a turret. But the design is only the beginning. Let's take a look at Megatron now, the pile of parts you see here to the left of your screen. You may think I'm exaggerating, well, maybe a little, but putting him together is a good way of understanding what went wrong. These are his legs. His toes are tucked in because they tend to do that. Anyway, his toes are loose, they just, fold in very easily. And will not stay down for as much as you try. It'll just go back in with any movement. He has no heel spurs. Even worse, his heels are rounded for the tank traits. They have nothing to keep him standing. So unless you have him in a slightly hunched forward position, he'll fall backwards. This is part of his crotch, his jointing. As you can see, that's the ball joint for the hip, right there. And that's the only thing that keeps his hips connected to his torso. The other part's still attached. So we'll attach it using that teeny tiny C-clip there. And there. You can peg his legs onto his torso fairly simply. And again, pull his toes out. As you can see, even with nothing, he's not standing straight. If you try to move him backwards, he'll just pop up. But what we want to see, his legs can move forward, not terribly far, but they do that. They can't move back. That's about all you get. That's it. If you try to move them outward, they'll just pop off. Yeah. There's very little outward movement, and it'll just pop off. It has no waist because I've had it goes forward, and yeah, see, just pops off. His arms. That little peg there is the only thing that connects his arm to his torso. But before you put it on, let's attach a fist. This is his fist with his forearm cover. This is diecast. The purple part is plastic. His fist, even though it looks like it's on a ball joint, it's not. It's just a scroll hinge up and down. It doesn't rotate. So we'll There. Problem here is, see, when you try to transform the ER and pull it out, in most cases you'll end up pulling out the forearm. Trying to pick it back in, we'll just push the arm back in. Won't stop the time. Work that time. Anyway, we can try to attach his arm there. There. Like so. And get his other arm. Do the same thing. Like that. There you go. And there's Megatron. Finally assembled. He'll just disassemble himself eventually again, but hey. Take a look at his face. It's pretty nice. I mean, nice and silver. Red eyes. He does have a nice detailing. It's all die cast, painted. The Decepticon logo right there. Nice yellow accents. His legs, some gunmetal gray there. The rest of it is just gunmetal gray. Some plastic inserts. The treads, he does have some wheels. Not a lot of backpack, which is at least good. Articulation, yes, his head can rotate. It's very tight, but it can rotate to both sides. His arms can rotate. He can move up and down. He has a, shall we say, a bicep swivel just above the elbow because it's a ball joint. So it rotates. This just came off, see? And the aforementioned fist swivel up and down. No waist, as said, forward, and it comes off. Almost no back movement. Almost no out movement, and it also comes off. Knees. You wonder how much knee bend it has? That's it. 10 degrees of knee. And his toes, well, they can move up, but that's it. And of course, he'll just tilt backwards unless he's slightly hunched over to counterbalance. That is Megatron in a nutshell, and why this line was set up to fail from the beginning. See? To transform Megatron into his tank mode, if he stays together, want to rotate his head all the way around, fold up his backpack, fold up his arms, up and over, like so. Tap them in with a gun in the middle, like that. Rotate his arms, fold down his fists. Very, very floppy. There we go. All tapped in. His fists rest inside the square ports there on his backpack. Like that. Then his legs, you gotta separate them out the crotch and they'll fall off regardless of what you do. And rotate them up. And the port there will peg onto his shoulder port. There. And this will untab his goddamn shoulder again because this is the way this thing works. Sorry. Oh, shit. Oh. As you can tell, it's not easy to keep it together for transformation. Again, pull them up, tap it in. Tap him in. Same thing on the other side. Hold it up. Tap it in. There. there he is in his tank mode, which is just a crate with a name in the front. Nice silver detailing on the sides. But he'll never stay together. He does roll on the wheels, sort of. More like slides, but they are there. Yeah. And he's also very, very heavy. Since their first outing was this bad, I mean, one could expect that they'd only go up from there, but not really. See? Take a look at Thundercracker, Starscream, Skywarp, and Sunstorm were all made out of this mold. It's one of the better molds. I mean, they're still terrible. They don't like to stay together, but he's one of the better ones. He's got a nice blue jet mode. He does have a landing gear with a rolling wheel. Transform him, separate his legs. You fall down the cockpit, pull it all the way to the back, open up his fin, to wheel his head, straighten up the legs, and they'll come off as well. Trust me, I'm not being very rough with these guys. And rotate his arm forward, rotate his fist. There he is. His arms are soft and rubbery for some reason. His fists are very rubbery. Articulation-wise, well, let's take a look at his head first. His head is okay, very small, but nicely defined. I mean, you can tell his nose, his mouth is all there. Articulation, as I said, his head rotates back and forth. His shoulders do not rotate, they can move slightly out and down, or up and down. He does not have a bicep swivel, he only has an elbow up and backwards, and he has a fist rotation right there. But like I said, it's very rubbery. No waist, legs move up, move back, move out, and his toes can point down. And that is all he can do. He doesn't even come with a gun, because he can't hold it. His fists are totally closed, shut. Now, the other Megatron they released in this line is the War Within version. He's, I don't know, just some weird looking tank from the comics with outward treads. Lots of silver, silver plastic, and a little silver paint on the diecast. This is just his torso, you can see. And he, again, it's not like stay together. To transform him, just pull out his front gun. By the way, it can't move. It's pegged in and it doesn't do anything. This one moves up and down and rotates. Well, actually it moves down, can't move up. Transform him, extend his legs, pull out his feet, open up the arms, rotate his torso, move his gun forward, tab in his arms again, rotate his fists out, allow you to. Twist that all the way. First, and there he is. There's Megatron. His gun can separate, form a shield of some type. You can use this peg on his arm. But here's a real kicker. You can't give him his traditional arm cannon. The only peg and the only port, is on his forearm. But this peg is too short to protrude over this lip. So you can't actually take it in there and keep it there. So it'll just pop off. Barely any movement, and it'll just pop off. So you're best served by just keeping it connected to the shield and tabbing the shield to his fist. You can hold it as a gun. It kind of defeats the purpose. Well, these tend to just collapse back down. For articulation, oh, I don't want to see the head, right? There's his head. It's a nice head, nice detailing, red eyes. Articulation-wise, he said, can rotate, it's very tight, but can't rotate side to side, all the way around. His arms will keep detaching, but they can also rotate around. They can't move up because of how they transformed. They can move outward, like that, downward. He has an elbow, but no bicep. Bicep below the elbow. So forearm, actually. Forearm rotation below the elbow. And he has a wrist swivel. Very tight wrist swivel. He does have a waist joint, surprisingly. His legs can move up that far. Can move down that far. Can rotate at the thigh. They do have a knee bend, surprisingly. Not very far. And his toes can just point down. No ankle tilts or anything. And they're kind of loose on mine. His hips do have some missile pods there. Anyway, he's just average for titanium. He's not terrible, but he's by no means good. Optimal Optimus. He has no monkey mode. So if you wanted a monkey mode, you'll be disappointed. He does have decent articulation. He actually is the only one that doesn't fall apart. Will stay together pretty well. You know, his arms may fall off, but they're on ball joints. His head. A nice Optimal Optimus head. It's one of the better ones out there. He does have guns that flip out, like his original counterpart did. In any case, articulation, yeah, his head rotates all around. He can look up if you transform him back. He can look down a bit. Shoulders rotate. They can move up. They can move down. They can get closer to the torso. As I said, his arms are on a ball joint. Move up and down, rotate. So have wrist rotation. He does not have a waist due to how he transforms. His legs can move up, can move back, can move out, surprisingly. He does have rotation just above the knee. His legs can bend under 90 degrees. And his feet can move down due to transformation, but there's no ankle tilt. He can transform into his jet and into his tank mode, or transport mode, if you will. Rotate the head, pull out his chest. And his tire. Rotate his arms. And in. Start forward, rotate his hands forward, and they'll peg into the tire like that, and like that. Rotate his torso back, take his legs together, fold his feet up, and collapse his legs. Then rotate his wheels down, and there is his transport mode. So now, Rodimus Prime, he does include his gun, which he can hold in his tiny little fist. Pointed forward. His gun is made of soft rubbery plastic because reasons. Head, particularly his nice head, very hot roddy. His chest is painted, nice flame deco, the Autobot logo, painted headlights. His arms are all die-cast painted, and his lower legs are all painted. He has one of the more interesting transformations, and I wish they'd replicated it on a modern toy, but they haven't, because his whole Winnebago collapses onto his legs, which is fairly interesting. Anyway, he's always hunching a little forward. Not because his head is pointed forward, but he just hunches. He's also, yeah, very hollow. Yeah, there's nothing right there. It's just a hole. And his chest just doesn't tap in anywhere. It has this little plateau there on his torso, his waist. And these two metal tabs that just kind of rest there. They don't tab in, they don't clip in, they don't lock in any way. They just rest there. So any movement will cause it to untab and just collapse. Articulation, arms rotate 260 degrees. They can move up, though it looks kind of weird, but they can move up. It has rotation just below the elbow. It does have a under 90 degrees of elbow. His wrists don't rotate because they're on sliders, so you can't do anything other than slide in and out. He has a waist. Shockingly, he has a waist. Legs can move up. They can move back. They can move out, but the tires get in the way. So that's as far as you go. He does have rotation just above the knee. And he has that amount of knee bend. If you fold open the panels, you can bend 90 degrees. His toes can't point down, mostly for transformation. And that's it. His windshield keeps coming up. So yeah, he looks nice. He poses better than everybody else. And he doesn't fall apart as easily. He still falls apart. His arms will come off. His legs will come off. His entire torso can come off. Big peg there. But he won't do it as easily. You need to apply some force there. So yeah, he looks nice. He's lacking some things. And you try to pose him like standing straight up. It just looks like he's, pulling his back out. In the case for transformation, you want to rotate his head around. You want to open up, move up his torso. Hold it up. Rotate his windscreen. Rotate his wing around. Collapse it together, like so. You want to collapse his fist in to his arms. You want to rotate his shoulder around. Fold it out. You want to rotate his arm around and fold it up, and then collapse it in. Something on the other side. Rotate. Fold it in. Rotate. Fold it in, and collapse. That's the front part of his vehicle all done. You want to rotate his waist. You want to open the panels on the back of his legs, like that. And you want to tap them together. 2 taps, 2 ports, right there. You want to fold his legs down and fold his hips up. And then with everything correct, you can use these two tabs to tab into those two ports on his arms. And that's it. Now when you fold his toes down. His gun and peg into the bottom of the car. Quickly like that. And that's it. There's his Winnebago mode, and I think it's one of the nicer ones. I think we've gotten this nice of a Rodimus in a very, very long time. Even Power of the Primes do this nice of a job for the car, for the Winnebago mode. Yes, the Studio Series is great. It's very complex. But even he doesn't manage to get his trailer all into his legs. It's a separate trailer with a big gun. I like this one because it's compact. I wish they'd remake this guy in plastic instead of die-cast. It's a Deluxe or Voyager. I think it would work fine. I think it's very nice Rodimus. I do like him. Wheels do rotate. But that's all he does. These tabs don't like staying. Yeah. It's one of the nicer titaniums out there. Optimus Prime. This is the War Within design from the comic books again. He does come with his gun again. But his gun is also made of soft tape. Soft plastic. His gun's made of soft plastic for some reason. Very rubbery handle. He can't really hold it that well because the handle is a bit wide at the base. But his hand is circular. So doesn't really work. You have to put it on an angle. And then sort of rotate, but I feel like I'm going to rip it off. And it still looks sideways. I mean, it's just not very straight. Other issues he has, well, his arms just don't stay tabbed in. It's a very tiny little tab there that clips onto the slot behind the wheel. And yeah, it does clip, and he would clip and feel it, but it just, falls off. Also, the hinge here is not really pinned in. It's just soft tabbed, so you can pull it off. It'll fall off, regardless of what you do. And yeah. His legs are kind of floppy now. They're always very floppy. He does have a nice head. Primey head. Nice blue eyes. Yellow for the headlights and the shoulders. A little silver paint on the torso. His thighs are all plastic, but his shins are all metal. This is his torso, his shoulders, his forearms. Articulation-wise, his head does rotate, around. His shoulders can rotate all around on the wheel, on the tire. They can, if they don't fall off. Oh, they can't actually move up. They can move backwards, but there's no up and down. He does have a bicep swivel. Has a 90-degree elbow. And his fists don't rotate or anything because, again, they are on sliders, so apparently it's impossible to make them slide and rotate. He does not have a waist. His torso rotates for transformation, but is locked in when he's in robot mode, so you can't actually get much of a rotation there. His legs can move forward just a tiny bit before they fall off. Can move back a bit more. They can rotate at the thigh. They bend under 90 degrees at the knee, and his toes can move down. He has a toe joint that can move down further, but not up. And his heel can move down. And that's it. That's all he does. So for transformation, you want to rotate. The first thing is rotate his shoulder pads forward all the way. You want to open up his arms, pull back. Straighten them out, rotate them around to expose that port. You want to slide his hands in, and then leave it like that. His legs, you want to fold down his toe, fold down his heel, then collapse everything together. Fold down his toe, fold down his heel. You want to collapse his legs in. You want to tap them in together. Like so. Want to fold his head in, push his cockpit up, and push his torso up, and rotate his lower torso around, and then continue. Yes, this will keep falling off many times. Continue folding it up as far as it'll go. Then you can rotate his arm back, and it'll peg in to this section of the cockpit, port and peg, like so. You can rotate his arm up into his torso, into the truck, and this peg right there, that peg will peg into that port, and just keep it there. Same thing on the other side, rotate it in, peg it in, rotate it, and peg it in, and there you have, well, you kind of have Optimus Prime. Robot in truck mode. And this one up again, because it will do that every single time. There we go. There. And there you go. There is Optimus Prime in his robot mode. In his truck mode. There. Truck mode looks nice. I mean, it is well within design in the comics. It's okay. The wheels roll. But arms will always come unpegged. There. Yeah, it's not the best. Yeah, see? It'll just come undone every single time. If you try to move it, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is why this line is so terrible. Because as nice as the heavy feeling of it is, it just doesn't work. He's okay. His gun has nowhere to go in truck mode. Not on the bottom. Not even on the top. It just doesn't store anywhere. And the last one today is the Fallen. Since we're getting a new fall in for next year's toy line, he's the leader class. He looks very nice. I mean, I like the flamey details behind him. His lit up furnace-like design, you know. His head is very cool looking, yellow eyes, with his knight mouth plate. Kind of looks kind of evil primey to me. The flames in the back. His furnace chest, furnace legs, toes painted gunmetal. He does have 2 arm guns. They are, again, soft and rubbery. You can see his treads on the back. These are supposed to fold up. They don't peg anywhere. There's no port. There's no peg. They just fold up, but they just don't stay there. They'll fall down, regardless of what you do. His torso is die cast. His shoulders are die cast. His lower legs are die cast. His crotch, thighs are plastic. His arms are plastic, shockingly enough. Articulation-wise, his head rotates, of course it does. Can't look up, can't look down. His shoulders rotate. They can move up, out and in. His bicep rotation is underneath his elbow. He does have an elbow joint under 90 degrees. Nothing at the wrists, just, blocks there. They're barely recognizable as wrists. They have a little peg hole there, but his hands have a little peg hole there, but yeah. It's nothing, no hand detail there to speak of. His guns kind of rotate. Has waist rotation. His legs can move up. They can move back. Can move out. Can rotate at the knee. Yeah, and can pop off because of course it can. Wow, his knee's so tight he just makes his leg pop off. Yeah, and his panel popped off. Excellent. There. Anyway, where were we? Yes, his knees can bend that much before they come undone. Yeah, there's almost no bend there. Right. That's it. That's all the bend there is. One click and forward, straight, bent. That's it. No more bend. And his toes can move down for transmission. That's it. So let's transform him, shall we? For a transformation, rotate his head back. I'm going to open his flamey panels backwards, like that. Want to rotate his lower torso around, fold down his feet, tab in, well, almost. He has a couple of ports there. Has a couple of ports there. That port and that port, not the screw holes. That port and that port. They're supposed to tab in to those teeny tiny little nubs. Obviously, they don't hold. Oh. And his panel just fell off because, of course, it did. Because, that's the way titanium rolls. It just falls off. Okay, so anyway. With his legs sort of put together like that. You want to fold up his legs like that. Fold down his rear panels so it becomes tread. They have that tab. We'll go into that slot right there. And tab it in, And you want to fold down his head to the back, rotate his arms up, rotate them back, rotate them around, back, up, and around. They will tab in together via one peg and one port. Fold these back. They do not tab anywhere. They just, hang out right there. They have no tabs, no ports, no anything. There's nothing there. I thought this was a magnet, but it's not. It just hang up there. And there he is in his tank mode. With his guns. You can remove his guns and rotate them around so you don't see the hollow parts. But then you'll have to do that when you go back to robot mode. There he is. That is his tank mode. His robot mode is not bad. His tank mode is just sad. At least it tabs in a couple places. At the very least. But yeah. It's a very sad looking tank mode, regardless. Now, all these figures came with bases, which I can't find mine. But they came with gray bases. They didn't do anything. And little nameplates like this one. This one's for Optimus Primal. Give it a little focus. Oh, Rodimus Prime, sorry. It's Rodimus Prime. So we have a little base with a little plaque, and the figure is standing on top of it. Other figures in this line that are better than what I have, and you'll see pictures of them right now, include RID Optimus Prime, which uses his super mode and transforms directly from the truck mode, from the fire truck to the super mode. It's very nice. Have G1 Ultra Magnus, which is also an all-in-one transformation from truck to robot. No cab in between. And it's also really, really decent robot. And you got a couple of of oddballs that came out later in the line, almost at the end. Grimlock and Prowl. Prowl really, really suffers from the transformation to get that hover car. And Grimlock's just okay. Doesn't do anything major. But all in all, the toy line was not good. It's not a good toy line. It was short-lived. Had very few figures. It did manage to produce a slightly bigger line of 3-inch figures that don't transform. They can be used for board games. I believe they were called Hero Clicks at one point. But outside of that, yeah, the line wasn't good. The line failed, and it's never to be talked about again, because clearly Hasbro has not tried that again in almost 10 years. So, yeah. So that's it for Titanium. And here they are. The ones I own. These are all the ones I own. And they're kind of fun to mess around with, but not really. I mean, they have their issues. They'll fall apart when you try to move them around, so yeah. You really don't want to mess around with them. It's sad, because it could have been a great line. Hey, you live and you learn. If they ever revisit this concept again, hopefully they'll do it better. So, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe below. And I'll see you next time.